Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of a Great British giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching State of the Nation on GB News with me, Matt Goodwin, standing in for the eminent Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. On tonight's show, Chancellor...
The Chancellor has been honest and consistent with the public in everything she has said.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves is on borrowed time, accused of exaggerating a so-called black hole in the public finances and triggering massive tax hikes on working families. She's now facing an ethics investigation. Her position is untenable. But if she falls, then the Prime Minister Keir Starmer falls too. It's time for her to resign. Also,
the serious answer is to smash the gangs.
And the Prime Minister's one-in, one-out deal with France is failing again, with only one in for every 90 small boat arrivals. Shocking statistics and just 153 returns against nearly 14,000 crossings. With the scheme barely making a dent in the crisis, is it time for France to pull its weight? We'll be debating that tonight. And...
I'm apparently being convicted in Bangladesh, and the only reason I know I'm being convicted is because I read it in the newspapers. So this is trial by media.
And another scandal for Labour MP Tulip Siddique has been sentenced in absentia on corruption charges in Bangladesh. She says that the charges are false and politically driven, but it's the latest in a long line of Labour's ever-growing list of scandals. So is this a result of a political vendetta abroad, or is it the sign of an ugly streak at the heart of the Labour Party? We'll be debating that. Plus, get this, a former preacher in British mosques spent his time in Leicester and London is now believed to be the new leader of ISIS. Running a global network from the mountains of Somalia, Abdul Qadir Mumin has rebuilt a force linked to attacks abroad and survived repeated attempts to stop him. So how did somebody with such extremist views slip past UK authorities? That State of the Nation starts right now. Now, I'll also be joined tonight by my top panel, former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler, and the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. As ever, we want to hear your views, so let us know what you think at gbnews.com/your say. But now it's time for the news with Sophia Hill.
Matt, thank you. A very good evening. It's just gone 8 o'clock. These are your top stories. The Office for Budget Responsibility Chairman Richard Hughes has resigned. In a letter sent to Rachel Reeves and the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, Hughes says that he wants to ensure that the OBR gets the chance to quickly move on from this regrettable incident. It comes after the OBR this afternoon published a report urging an immediate change to its leadership after it mistakenly released an analysis of the budget early. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch accused the Chancellor of using Mr Hughes as a human shield and has now called on Rachel Reeves to resign.
The fact is, this has now turned into a political crisis for the Prime Minister and his Chancellor. This is a classic example of do as I say, not do as I do.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is pressing ahead with a major welfare reform drive, arguing that the current system is trapping young people outside the workforce and holding back economic growth. He says that the budget was a moment of personal pride after scrapping the two-child benefit cap, a move expected to lift around 450,000 children out of poverty. But the political pressure is far from over. Labour is still fending off claims that it misled its voters about the scale of financial challenge after Rachel Reeves confirmed £26 billion in tax rises. Elsewhere, resident doctors in England will go on strike from December the 17th to December the 22nd. Sharing the news on social media earlier today, British Medical Association said that they gave the government a window to deliver sufficient progress on a deal, but that didn't happen. Experts expect pressure on services to be intense amid surging flu cases and staff sickness, but medics say that they have been left with no choice but to return to the picket lines. Well, Christmas is officially on the way as Downing Street has turned on its Christmas lights. The light switch on featured a 19-foot Norway spruce from the Cadeby Tree Trust in Leicestershire. A community hero called Sam was given the honour of pressing the button, while the Prime Minister hosted a Christmas market-style showcase, celebrating small firms, frontline workers and community champions. Small businesses are set for a bumper festive season, with spending up 19% on last year, which could provide an extra £5 billion boost. And if social media is making your blood boil, you might be a victim of rage bait. That's Oxford's word of the year. The phrase describes posts designed purely to provoke outrage and drive clicks. The use of rage bait tripled in the past year, reflecting what linguists say is a shift from curiosity-driven clickbait to algorithms amplifying anger. It beat aura farming and biohack to the top title, while Cambridge chose parasocial and Collins went for vibe coding, all capturing the strains of life lived online. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour, but now it's back to Matt.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, stepping in tonight. Well, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she has to go. And if she does, this could be the beginning of the end of the Labour government. I'm sure many of you out there are wishing for that this Christmas. For months, the Chancellor has claimed that there was a multi-billion-pound black hole in the public finances, and she warned of a fiscal disaster, insisting that she faced an unmanageable shortfall. But now we learn that the Office for Budget Responsibility had told her there was no such black hole. In fact, according to reports, Rachel Reeves had been informed of a £4.2 billion surplus while warning the British people of impending economic catastrophe if the gap was not plugged. Now, this lie, of course, became her justification for an additional £30 billion in tax rises on top of the £40 billion already delivered by the Labour government last year. Now, it seems that the Cabinet even was not told about the OBR's assessment. And speaking of the OBR, this afternoon, its chief, Richard Hughes, resigned after the entire budget was leaked before the Chancellor had made her statement in the House of Commons. Kemi Badenoch responded, saying the Chancellor is trying to use the chair of the OBR as her human shield. Why is it always someone else's fault with Starmer and Reeves? Well, Rachel Reeves now faces referrals to the Prime Minister's ethics advisor. Urgent questions are being prepared in Parliament, and calls for an investigation into possible breaches of the ministerial code continue. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray, took one for the team earlier today and addressed the fallout in the Chancellor's very noticeable absence. Watch this.
Took the step of delivering a speech before the budget precisely so that she could be upfront about the circumstances she was facing and the decisions that she would need to take. The Chancellor has been honest and consistent with the public in everything she has said.
But it's not just the appearance of deception that angers the British people, it's what these tax rises have been used for. These revenues were channelled into one of the largest welfare expansions in British history. Figures from the Centre for Social Justice, a very rigorous think tank in Westminster, show that a single parent with 3 children, one receiving an additional allowance for conditions like ADHD or anxiety, could soon receive £38,000 a year in support. A family on universal credit could receive £46,000, compared with £28,000 for a family where both parents are working. To take home the same as a 3-child family on full benefits, a British worker would need a salary of £71,000. Now, in 2022, a Policy Exchange report found that the share of families with 3 or more children varies from 14% among white British families to 41% among Pakistani families and about 38% among Bangladeshi families. Now, this turns the social contract upside down. It makes work unrewarding, it fosters dependency over aspiration, it burdens British working families that are already struggling with rising costs, stagnant growth and out-of-control mass immigration. Over 1 million more people are now on universal credit since Labour took power. Isn't that absolutely astonishing? Hundreds of thousands of young Brits are leaving the country. Entrepreneurs and job creators are relocating abroad. I just ask you, who voted for this? Who actually asked for this to happen? Where in any manifesto did we see £70 billion in tax rises? And that's why a new YouGov poll shows that 60% of Brits now think that Rachel Reeves is, in their words, untrustworthy. Today, the Chancellor looks more vulnerable than at any point since taking office. And if she falls, then Keir Starmer will, I suspect, fall as well. Their political futures are inseparable. If she goes, he goes. That's why he will not sack her. So she must resign of her own volition. This government is falling apart, and yet in all this chaos, despite her Treasury colleagues attempting to weather the storm in her place, there lies an enormous opportunity for a course correction this country so desperately needs. If Rachel Reeves goes and if Keir Starmer follows, we may finally see the moment that so many people out there feel has been a very long time coming. As ever, let me know your views, gbnews.com/your say. Let's discuss this with my panel. Former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Taylor, and the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. Stephen, if I could start with you. Yeah. Rachel Reeves, when is she going to go?
She's not going to go. Look, if you're interested more in party politics than you are in the economy of this nation, then you'll be calling for her to go. It would be utterly disastrous for the Chancellor of the Exchequer to resign. Can you imagine the reaction on the bond markets? It would be Liz Truss all over again. We've simply got to realise that stability is the single most important factor we have in this country. To try to conflate a leak from the OBR with some sort of a malfeasance on the part of the Chancellor of the Exchequer is specious nonsense. And I think Kemi Badenoch does herself no favours at all when she actually calls into play these ridiculous hyperbolic statements, accusing her of some sort of malfeasance and some sort of reference to the Ethics Commissioner. It is absolute, utter nonsense. We all know what happened. It's the new platform they have within the civil service didn't have sufficient firewalls. The thing with the OBR report was put up on that. It was released early. That is nothing to do with the quality, I consider the great quality of the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Gawain Taylor.
Well, weirdly, I don't disagree entirely with Stephen here. In the budget response from Kemi, there was absolutely no reason to call for a resignation. Absolutely not. And it cheapens, it makes it like crying wolf. However...
So you don't think Rachel Reeves should?
However, at the time of the budget response, now we've learnt that there was deceit. That's a different question. And it's not for the... When she produced the budget calling for a resign, that's absurd. That's just ridiculous. But the thing is, because Kemi asked for a resignation in that speech, in the response speech to the budget, her calls for her resignation now look weak. And I agree with Stephen. Look, the head of the OBR should have resigned for the absolute kibosh they made of releasing that report before the budget. Absolutely, that's right. But that's not covering Rachel. That's not covering the Chancellor. He's resigning because of his own operations failures. That being said, the dishonesty, the fact that she and the Prime Minister were aware of these numbers and stood up in the House and basically lied, now that's a far bigger issue. But because Kemi went too early, it's much weaker. The calls for her resignation are much weaker. And one other thing, look, the Tories lost a whole bunch of leaders. I do not believe that if Rachel was, the Chancellor was sacked, I do not believe that means that Starmer was gone. I just don't.
Stephen,
that's not how British politics work.
Stephen Powell, let me just come back to you on something. This isn't so much about what has happened in the last couple of days with the OBR. This is about how Rachel Reeves rolled the pitch. And she rolled it, clearly, looking at those OBR statements, looking at what we've discovered over the weekend from cabinet sources and others. She rolled it in a very disingenuous way. There is something underhand about how Rachel Reeves actually presented the backdrop to the decisions that she made in the budget. And I think many people out there, British people aren't stupid, they can see that they've been misled.
Well, I think, in honesty, if Kemi Badenoch had had such a cool analysis as the one that you've just presented, she would have been a damn sight more impressive when she made this totally over-the-top attack. Look, the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. And we know that this figure was actually about the headroom that they needed. I think there was a 4.6 billion headroom. They actually needed 16 billion. The reality is, no chance of the Exchequer I can think of in my time, Tory or Labour or whatever, has ever sat down and said, how can I screw the British people over? How can I squeeze more money out? And to say
hold on.
Sorry.
There are people she likes and people she doesn't like. That's very clear.
Yeah. Are there? Such as?
Pensioners. People who work, people who want to work, people who've got businesses, people who want to...
Sorry, young man, believe you me, we pensioners are in a pretty good place.
Stephen,
We've got the triple lock.
Stephen, just briefly, can I ask you, when I read out those numbers about how different families compare with families on welfare, often doing a lot better than British workers, just you're a Labour man. Isn't there something in you that just sits very uneasily when you look at those numbers? We're not incentivising work in this country. We're incentivising welfare dependency.
No question that there is a problem in this country, a massive problem of productivity. And I still think that...
It's not just productivity.
I take your point. But those figures you gave there, the 38,000 figure and the needing to earn 71,000 figure, you're actually lumping together a whole range of benefits, a child benefit, housing benefit, a whole range of benefits together. You can disaggregate that. What we need, I think, is incentives is the most important thing. And that, at the moment, I just don't believe that people...
But surely you incentivise work by reducing the taxes on work. It's one of those classic... It's a bit... It's a truism, isn't it? You want people to stop drinking, you put taxes up on booze. You want people to stop smoking, you put taxes on work. You want people to stop working, you put taxes up on work. And that's what this government is doing. We need to make it worthwhile for people to work.
So, Garrett, we need a high-wage economy. We do not need a race to the bottom. We need a high-wage economy. And if that entails...
You're not going to have a high-wage economy if everybody who works... if you've got the freezing of the allowance, so anybody who... You don't even need a pay rise to get hit by higher rates.
Freezing the allowance just means it's just not increased. But if you just have a look at the rest of the budget...
it's not increased for 10 years.
Look at the stuff about industrial development. Look at the stuff about regional development. Look at the stuff about AI. That is where we're going to...
But we're not going to have AI because we can't afford it, because we can't afford the energy to pay for it.
We can't afford not to do it.
Well,
the rest of the world is doing it. We cannot be left in the slow lane while the rest of the world is racing down.
The only way you can improve cost of living is cutting the cost of energy, because the taxes, the complications of...
That is one of the ways.
We have a tax code that's taller than I am, and the complications, the difficulties. The fact is, most people are going to be confused by this. You've got changes to this, changes to that.
One of the ways. It's not the only way.
It's a mess.
Okay. Well, the debate, as always, will rumble on, and we'll be here to support it in all ways that we can. Thank you to my panel for now. Coming up in a moment, check this out. Well, there you are. No audio for Keir Starmer. That's exactly how I like it. The Prime Minister's one-in, one-out deal with France is failing again, with only 1 in every 90 small boat arrivals being removed and just 153 returns against nearly 14,000 crossings, with the scheme barely making a dent in the crisis. Is it time for France to now start pulling its weight? We're going to be debating that in 1 minute.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The new guidelines instruct visa officers to reject applicants who may be eligible for public benefits as part of the president's hardline crackdown on immigration, all to prevent people becoming dependent on those public benefits and draining the US resources.
So with an increasing obesity problem in the UK, should the UK follow Trump and ban visas for fat people?
Well, joining us now is the body positivity influencer and actor George Keywood and the former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller. Steve, I think I might know what you think about this one. Let's kick off with you.
Well, I think this is great. I think this is Trump using common sense. This is Trump putting his country first. And wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air if we had it in the UK? Of course, you know, by encouraging people that are too fat and have already got medical conditions, serious medical conditions, coming into your country, what I'm saying is, it is a common sense factor, because the likelihood is that they're going to cost your country a lot of money. And let's face it, the taxpayer is already under stress. The NHS is knackered. And do you know how much it costs per year to look after someone with diabetes? It costs up to £3,000 a year. So no, we're bust. We can't afford it. So Trump's policy is something absolutely we should adopt. It's common sense, and I think most British people would agree.
George Keywood, what do you think? Is he being unfair?
Well, I'm British and I completely disagree. It's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, Jesus Christ. Are we getting to the point where we're saying that fat people can't go in a country? I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous. And it's something that I expect for somebody like that to say.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to State of the Nation tonight with me, Matt Goodwin, standing in for Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, the Prime Minister's one-in, one-out deal between the UK and France has failed again. Under the agreement, as you know, Britain accepts one vetted asylum seeker from France for every small boat migrant that France takes back. But eligibility rules mean that only 1 in every 90 arrivals has so far been removed. The numbers are shocking. Since this treaty was signed, only 153 illegal migrants have been returned to France, compared with more than nearly 14,000 people who have crossed the Channel. Now, charities and officials say the scheme is bogged down by identification requirements, long waits and technical problems, leaving thousands in limbo and pushing some to risk small boat journeys regardless. So I want to ask this question tonight. Is it time that France pulled its weight more? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now by the deputy editor of French conservative magazine, Jeremy Stubbs. Jeremy, thank you for joining us down the line. When on earth is France going to pull its neck out and get on top of this crisis?
Well, actually, France would love to get on top of this crisis because it has two problems for France. One, people living in the Calais area suffering a miserable life because of the presence of thousands of migrants. And these migrants themselves, they haven't just wandered into France and then said, oh, I think I'll hop over to the UK. Most of them have been brought in along pre-established routes by smugglers who've sold them the dream of a life in the UK. So France has all these people on its territory that it would really rather not have coming in. And the more that cross to the UK, the more other people want to come. The trouble is that France is... Sorry, I was just going to say in conclusion that France is as impotent as the United Kingdom in all this, unfortunately.
The mood music here in Westminster is essentially that the one-in, one-out deal has been another gimmick. It's completely failed. We've had people who have been returned to France coming back across the channel in the small boats. It's become a game of hokey-cokey. Unfortunately, it's also costing the British people about £15 billion in asylum costs. What is the mood music in France with regard to this deal? What are the French saying about this one-in, one-out deal that Macron and Starmer signed with much fanfare?
Well, I think anyone who is against illegal migration thinks that this is not even worth talking about. It's just another gimmick, as you said. And Monsieur Macron is accused of having very many gimmicks in many domains. But of course, you've got a whole slew of bleeding heart NGOs and other committees in France, just as in the UK, that are denouncing this and saying it's against humanitarian law and principles. So this thing, I don't want to make a bad pun, but it's going nowhere.
Jeremy, really just briefly before we have to bring in the panel, I just also want to ask you, I've seen the polling in France. Jordan Bardella, essentially, Marine Le Pen's right-hand man from National Rally, very hardline on issues like immigration, defeating everybody in the presidential election polling. Of course, that election coming up in 2027. How would that change this dynamic around illegal migration? And just briefly, if you can, because we need to bring in the panel.
France is mainly obsessed with other forms of migration, like people who come from Algeria. So this is a sideshow. But it's likely that certain measures that are now being considered, like intercepting the taxi boats in the water before the migrants get on board, or actually blocking their propellers with nets, these are far more promising than the one-in, one-out. These are being considered now. We could see more measures of that type, I think, if a different government got into power.
Well, thank you, Jeremy Stubbs, for your time this evening. I'm just going to bring in the panel, Gawain Towler and Stephen Pound. Gawain, we all know this crisis is not going away. It's another gimmick unless you deal with the fundamentals, leave the ECHR, repeal the HRA. But, the numbers are getting so big now. The returns are so small relative to the numbers coming in. If Starmer hangs on, if Labour hang on, this is going to evolve over the next 2, 3, 4 years. We're going to have perhaps potentially 300,000-400,000 illegal migrants. Where do we go from here?
Well, I suspect that the mood in the country will get so volatile and angry about this that the government will change even more. Shabana Mahmood's mood music, what she was saying the other week, there's a nice rhetoric there, but there were all sorts of opt-outs and ways through it. I suspect that will stiffen and harden because people are increasingly annoyed. So I suspect all parties will go into the next election talking about deporting millions. Not just us, but even the Labour Party, because they know the country is so annoyed.
You do think there'll be anger, not apathy? You don't think the British people are close to just saying, well, we can't change it?
Look, I think what we saw at the Bell Hotel and what we've seen in Sussex, what we're now seeing in Wiltshire, the flags across the country. No, this is not a country that is sitting on its backside. This is a country that's beginning to stand up.
Stephen, as I just said there to our guest, France is moving rightwards. You look at the polling, it's pretty devastating for the mainstream. Bardella is way ahead of everybody else. He's just released his new book. I think his first book sold 240,000 copies in France. He's a man of the moment, very hardline on immigration. There's something going on here. Europe is moving right on all of these issues. Maloney, in Sweden, Austria, but we are still practising this kind of porous borders policy, not getting tough on any of this.
I think basically every European country is looking at this in a different way. In France, you have La France Insoumise, which is a very sort of Corbynist left-wing movement, and they are actually polling very, very strongly. But look at Denmark. Denmark is a country which for many years, a lot of people like me on the left have looked up to Denmark. High tax, high welfare, marvellous place to
Borgen World.
Yeah, an excellent place. We have nothing wrong with Borg, you know. And what are they doing now? They're actually blowing up some of the ghettos and refusing to... And, you know, they're the ones who talked about taking people's wedding rings off them. So it is... And look at Meloni in Italy. I mean, Meloni, she's actually gone in the other direction. She came in as super hard right, and now she's actually being much more moderate and sensible, but effective. She's actually deporting people to Albania. But for me, the
She's
real...
also saying ban the burqa and get tough on Islam
and
as
that's
well.
possibly another argument for another day. But look, for me, the real killer statistic there is 4.2 million people came into this country under the Boris wave between 21 and 21. 4.2 million. That dwarfs anything that's happening at the moment.
No, I don't think anyone here is defending the legacy of the Tories on immigration. Thank you to my panel. Now, coming up in one moment, just check this out.
I'm apparently being convicted in Bangladesh, and the only reason I know I'm being convicted is because I read it in the newspapers. So this is trial by media.
Well, another scandal for Labour MP Tulip Siddiq has been sentenced in absenteeism and corruption charges in Bangladesh. She says that the charges are false, that they're driven by politics, but it is the latest in a growing list of Labour's ever-growing scandals. So is this a result of a political vendetta, or actually is it the sign of an ugly streak at the heart of the Labour Party? We'll be debating that in just 1 minute.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there. If you're off to the Mediterranean in the next few days, there will be a lot of dry weather to be enjoyed, but there will also be some heavy showers in places. And across Iberia and Madeira, we have got this cold front pushing through on Tuesday, so some gusty winds and heavy rain for a time. Thunderstorms following to Portugal as well. Otherwise, across the central Med, there will be some scattered heavy showers and thunderstorms, but mostly dry across Greece and Turkey, some warm spells of sunshine here, and quite a changeable outlook for the rest of the week, but temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. We've had a Met Office amber rain warning in place through the day across parts of South Wales and other rain yellow warnings across parts of Western Britain. It has been a very soggy start to December, but the rain is now starting to ease in the west. These weather fronts are moving through, but still a band of pretty intense rain working from west to east over the next few hours before that finally starts to head out into the North Sea. Further outbreaks of rain to come and go across parts of Scotland, but many areas becoming much drier overnight with some clearer skies. That will allow the temperatures to dip to 5 or 6 degrees in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. It does mean a bright start to Tuesday. In fact, overall, a much brighter day tomorrow. Certainly for the Midlands and eastern England, we'll see some sunshine. Maybe a few breaks in the cloud coming through to parts of Scotland. Also, some wet weather across the Northern Isles initially, and showers will come into western Scotland all day. Elsewhere, we'll be looking at showers developing also. A few, maybe for the west of Northern Ireland, certainly around the coasts of western England and Wales, and along the south coast, there'll be some showers to start off with. And as we go through the day, those showers will tend to creep inland as well. So although not as wet as today in South Wales and southwest England, obviously any rain falling here onto the saturated ground is likely to cause further problems. But the rain, at least a bit more hit and miss in the form of showers, and certainly much in the Midlands, eastern England, good part of eastern Scotland, through the central belt, dry and bright for the most part. A little cooler than today, but we'll have a bit more sunshine, and the winds will be lighter as well. Wednesday is also a case of sunshine and showers, and again, most of the showers will be focused in western areas, particularly western Scotland. It's a good chance that eastern England will stay dry and bright. And again, nothing like as heavy the rain across parts of Wales and southwest England as today. Temperatures, again, mostly 7 to 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, about average for this time of year.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, tonight, stepping in for Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, another headache has hit the Labour Party as MP Tulip Siddiq has been sentenced in absentia to 2 years in prison in Bangladesh on corruption charges. Now, she says that the charges are false and they are politically motivated. Watch this.
I'm absolutely baffled by the whole thing. I've still had no contact whatsoever from the Bangladeshi authorities, despite them spreading malicious allegations against me for a year and a half now. All they had to do is send some papers to the House of Commons, to Parliament, and I would have responded. So I feel like I'm in some sort of Kafka's nightmare where I'm carrying on doing my day job, but on the other hand, I'm apparently being convicted in Bangladesh, and the only reason I know I'm being convicted is because I read it in the newspapers. So this is trial by media, which is deeply unfair.
Well, her case now adds to Labour's growing list of scandals since taking office last year. Rushanara Ali's eviction scandal, Angela Rayner's missing tax bill on her third home, Lord Ali, reportedly bankrolling the Prime Minister's personal wardrobe and Taylor Swift tickets for a blue light escort. Is Tulip Siddiq's predicament a politically motivated attack on a British politician by the state of Bangladesh, or actually is it the latest sign that something is rotten at the heart of the Labour Party? Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler, and former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. Stephen, if I could start with you. There have been an enormous number of scandals since Labour came to power. There's a lot of hypocrisy going around here.
Well, hang on a second. We're not quite up to the industrial standard that the Tories set in the last one. We haven't had any.
It took them 10 years to get where you got to in the first year.
No, I'm not going to actually defend some of the cases that you mentioned, but I don't think that this is symptomatic of an entire ethos within the party. The Tulip Siddiqui thing is, I've known Tulip for years. Bangladesh is an utterly corrupt nation. It is run by two so-called political parties, the BNP and Awami League, and they are not political parties as we know them. They are kleptocracies. Now, her aunt was Sheikh Hasina, who was the leader of one of the parties for about 20-odd years. This is an attack on her. Sheikh Hasina is currently living in, I think it's somewhere in India.
Yeah.
You know, in a sort of in the cantonment there. So this is an attack on her. She's not been found guilty of anything in this country. There's no accusations against her in this country, and I think we should actually back off from Tulip and not give these people in Bangladesh any of the oxygen of publicity.
And is that fair? There's three things about the Bangladesh British politics. Yeah. One, the councillors, the Tower Hamlets councillors standing for election in Bangladesh, which is absolutely mad and wrong. Yeah. Two, I don't believe a word of what she just said. I do not believe that she found out about it in the newspapers. I'm sure people phoned her, given her family are involved with the Awami League. And three, yes, I do think the Bangladesh government are out to get her because of her relationship with Sheikh Hasina. But that doesn't mean she didn't do wrong. And her claims, I think, there's something that doesn't quite stand up. I do not entirely believe that nobody's been in touch with her. I do not believe she found out about the newspapers.
So what has she done wrong, Gawain?
Well, I have not looked at the details.
There's got to be something. You use that expression. Back it up.
We should say on it there is no evidence that she is lying.
There is no evidence she's lying.
But there's also no charge.
One thing that really, really worries me about this is if the government states, as it does, that the Representative of the People Act no longer doesn't apply to her because we believe that the Bangladeshi courts are corrupt. That, to me, means that anybody from Bangladesh who claims asylum gets asylum because we believe their courts and their system are corrupt. So there's a downside problem here. If we accept, as innocent and proven guilty in a British court, that she is not guilty of these things and she's been found guilty for political reasons in Bangladesh, does this not mean that any Bangladeshi claiming political asylum gets it? Because we don't...
we need to have a word with our judges.
This is a huge problem. Stephen, just slightly to the left of that. You know, I would have more sympathy for your point if we hadn't had, between 2019 and 2024, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner and others acting, you know, as holier than than holy by saying they were going to restore public standards. They were going to, be completely clean in public office. And the moment they stepped in, we had the Lord Ali scandal. Yeah. You then had the Russianara Ali scandal. You then had the Angela Rayner scandal. We then had the lying or the creative licensing on LinkedIn with not just Rachel Reeves, but also the other Labour minister. And it all just adds up. 12 months in, or just over a year in, it kind of adds up to 14 months in, adds up to something that just feels a bit off.
Well, hang on a second. Firstly, if everybody was purer than pure, you'd be out of a job, I think, to a certain extent.
I'm squeaky clean, I'll have you know.
No, not you personally. I'm just saying, political investigative journalists like yourself. But do you remember Robin Cook coming in 97? We're going to have a foreign policy with an ethical dimension. What a hostage to fortune. Anyone who can try to claim that 650 men and women are purer than...
Why does the government need... Starmer government, though? You must admit that this government looks like it is firmly on the wrong side here of the country. There's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of double standards. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of we said we'd do this and then we're doing something else.
Nobody could have anticipated a Labour MP beating up one of his constituencies.
That was unusual.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
That one. Yeah, that was another one.
But Matthew, one of the things I find very, very weird, and I really do, is that we have an ethics advisor.
Yeah.
Surely everybody knows the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
Why do we need an ethics advisor to tell us what the difference
because
between
Chancellors mislead the entire country.
This absolutely bizarre.
Well, it's like the OBR. The idea of the OBR and is to take it out of the political arena and have some cool analysis. That worked well, didn't it?
Right, and also it doesn't.
Of course it doesn't.
It just doesn't. It's absurd. And the idea that we need... Oh, she's been reported to the ethics advisor. Really? Really? You need... Why? We never had one of those before. Why do we need one of those?
You've spent a long time in the trenches of political opposition, let's put it like that, an anti-establishment political movement, UKIP and
we've had our problems,
Brexit Party reform and so on. Yeah. But having observed a lot of the governments you've gone against, New Labour, Cameron, the Conservatives, Tories and so on, do you think there's something quite odd about this Starmer government, just how vulnerable they are to this attack around hypocrisy?
The difference is with this government, and it was a little bit with Blair's government, but not nearly so much. The difference with this government is they present themselves as so much morally better than you lot. And the presentation of, we are the good guys, so therefore when they fail, it looks worse. Everybody is prone to failure. We are all weak. We all have failings. We're all do stuff that we're not comfortable about. However, what we've had from this government, the way they behaved before becoming government, what they said about the Tories before they got in the government, makes them look
Starmer was standing for the leadership, everybody said he's Mr. Rules. That's what they told us on the Labour backbench. I mean, this man, he'll sort it out. He's Mr. Rules.
Can I ask you one question? Angela Rayner, right, clearly avoided tax, right? The Labour Party saying, when is Angela Rayner coming back? I always feel as though the party is just not in the national conversation at all. Here's somebody that has clearly, done something underhand, has avoided tax, and yet the Labour Party are talking as if nothing has happened. Well, when's she coming back? When's she rejoining government?
The Labour Party doesn't speak with one voice. I mean, there are certain people there. I have to say, there's some of the most far-fetched fantasy flights about her moving to Brighton to try to get a Brighton seat.
Don't you think it's odd?
If it was the Parliamentary Labour Party or some front benches or the Cabinet were saying that, it would be odd. But it's not. It's just one or two people who are, in all honesty, the usual suspects.
Well, she was quoted in the Times at the weekend, I think.
Yeah, didn't mention the name, though. She mentioned no names.
Well, I'm hearing rumours in Westminster about a forthcoming book, which is a sort of pseudo-leadership campaign. I mean, there does seem to be something here.
Do it.
Rumours,
right.
dear boy, rumours.
Anyway, thank you to my panel for now, because in a moment we're going to be going to Somalia. This is fascinating. I've been wanting to talk about this all day. A former preacher in British mosques is now believed to be the new leader of ISIS. That's right, somebody that passed through Leicester and London is now leading ISIS, a global network from the mountains of Somalia. Abdul Qadir Mumin has rebuilt a force linked to attacks abroad and survived repeated attempts to stop him. So we want to ask this question: how on earth did somebody with such extremist views slip past UK authorities? See you in 1 minute.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference.
It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, stepping in for Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, a man once known as a preacher in Britain's mosque for a decade is believed to be the new leader of ISIS. Yes, you heard that right. He passed through Leicester and London, and apparently now he's running a global network of fighters from a remote mountain range in Somalia. Abdul Qadir Mumin was based for a time at a mosque in Leicester, has allegedly rebuilt a force that's funded attacks abroad, drawn in recruits from around the world, and survived intense US and Somali operations aimed at taking him down. Despite losing territory years ago, ISIS has continued to operate. So it must be asked, why has someone of such an extremist persuasion, how on earth was he able to escape the attention of UK authorities? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now by the Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society, Alan Mendoza. Alan, thank you for joining the show. Just tell us a bit about this guy, if you can, just to get us going. Who is this guy, and what's he about, and how long did he spend in the UK?
Well, he is, as you quite rightly pointed out already, Matt, one of the most extreme of the extreme Islamists out there. So he's infamous for his sort of dyed red beard, pearly white teeth. So he's very distinctive looking. Somalian, fled to Sweden in the 1990s, allegedly had to leave Sweden because he had threatened to mutilate his daughter, and the authorities found that out, and came to Britain, of course, as so many did. Leicester, he was in the mosque there. There was also Greenwich Mosque. In Greenwich Mosque, of course, he came across, it would seem, two of the worst terrorists we've produced. You had, of course, Jihadi John. He was in that mosque for a time, and indeed the man who murdered Lee Rigby, or the Fusilier, also in that mosque. So he clearly had a whole setup around him. He was a recruiter for people. He was generally regarded as trying to get people to go back to Somalia and fight jihad there. And once MI5 were onto him, he actually fled in 2010, returned to Somalia, joined the local al-Qaeda sort of movement first, al-Shabaab, then pledged allegiance to ISIS, and he slowly worked up the ranks, given ISIS is winnowing elsewhere, and appears to be right now the global leader.
Do we have any evidence that this guy was actually subsidised by the British state? Do we know if he was in social housing or on welfare? Do we have any information on his background at all, Alan?
I haven't seen that reported. It's possible, and we'd have to do a deep dive to look at what he was doing here, how he was being funded for that. But he essentially came somehow, didn't he, to the UK from Sweden? I'm unclear as to on what grounds he came here. Yeah,
I do ask because we have had Hamas lieutenants, among others, in social housing and basically being funded by British taxpayers. What do you think this is actually telling us more broadly about integration and cohesion in Britain? Because we're told that places like Leicester are a multicultural success story. We're told that London is the greatest city on earth. Here's a guy who basically has spent many years in those places. He's then gone off and he's become leader of ISIS. I mean, there just seems to be something here that really undermines the narrative that we are given in Westminster.
Well, there's a bigger problem here, Matt. I mean, the man arrived as a radical Islamist. I mean, it wasn't that he was turned into radical Islamists here. We let him in because we didn't bother checking into the man's background and what he is maybe fleeing Sweden for. So when you start to have someone who is a radical extremist, he's not going to change his views in Britain. On the contrary, he's going to try and spread his poison, particularly when the British state was so obviously weak and did nothing to stop that. You'll remember that period. It was a time when people were able to spew hatred left, right and centre. I'm not going to argue that's still happening today. But there were even fewer checks then than now. So, you know, integration wasn't even happening in the slightest. He was out there to stop people integrating.
Well, that's Alan Mendoza there, Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society. Thank you for the time. I'm just going to bring in the panel and just get a final word about this case. Gawain Towler, former Reform UK spokesperson. What is most significant to you about this? Because I find it quite chilling that we are exporting these guys to then run ISIS networks in the mountains of Somalia.
The thing that most concerns me is this was whilst we were still in the European Union, I believe. He came here from Sweden, and the British authorities didn't phone up the Swedish authorities and say, as a matter of interest, why is this chap coming? And the Swedish authorities didn't phone up ours and say, watch out, chaps, he's ghastly. So that actually really concerns me. These are friendly countries, and they were exporting their thugs to us.
Sweden is a very different country.
There's something about this, Stephen. I remember Melanie Phillips's book, Londonistan, where she argued that London was the... surprising in the aftermath of 9/11, but London was the major hub of jihadi terrorism, basically, and this was a shocking revelation in the aftermath of 9/11, of course, because Americans and others were saying, well, it's in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Melanie was saying, no, it's in London. And there's something here about we are now exporting a lot of bad guys to the rest of the world. Jihadi John, how many people went to Syria, Afghanistan, now this guy?
No, we're not just exporting, we're also deporting. Don't forget, his collar was felt by the Prevent programme in Leicester. Now,
finally.
Finally. I couldn't... But your point about his benefits, my former constituent, Abu Hamza, was a council tenant in Hammersmith who bought his council flat, bought his council house, made so much money that he bankrolled his son to be a security guard, and he bought a house in Greenford. So, but the thing about this Somalia, as you know, was three countries: British Somalia, French Somalia, and Italian Somalia. Somaliland, the old British bit, is almost autonomous now. Where this chap is in Puntland, the bit in the middle, which is the former French one. And Al-Shabaab, Italian?
It's part of old Somalia.
But Al-Shabaab, who are the big Islamic terrorist group there, they are fighting a war with Kenya, and we should support the Kenyan troops, what they're doing fighting there. So this chap is now in the mountains up there. How he's managed somehow, unless he's using some sort of, I don't know, some platform, some social media, to actually draw people in. Why on earth would people want to go there? What is it about this jihadi urge that is bringing people in? I don't think we
should be supporting Somaliland as well.
We should be very much
a working democracy, and they're fighting this.
There's a lot of people in the Somali community here would actually attack you for saying that. They think Somaliland shouldn't be a separate part
but
of Somalia.
But the Italian Somaliland.
Indeed. I have to say, at the moment, the British and the Americans are working there, but the Kenyans are doing the heavy lifting.
Just before we get into the intricacies of Somalia, just to bring it back a minute, Gawain, there is something here about ISIS and the fact that we've not defeated this ideology.
Not even close.
We've not defeated
We haven't defeated this ideology for the last 800 years. I mean, come on, we're not going to defeat it. It ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows. Currently, it's in a big flow. But to be able to defeat it, even to hold its rise, we have to believe in us. We're never going to defeat it unless we believe in ourselves and our culture. Because whilst we don't believe in ourselves, a strong culture, and let's be honest, Islamism, this sort of radical Islamism, is a very strong culture. It is, as what was it? We said there's two horses. Do you follow a strong horse or a weak horse? And people follow a strong horse.
But not
right
only
now,
that,
we are a weak horse.
I'd also go further and say, we have been tolerating people who do not tolerate us, and we have been denigrating our history and our culture and our shared sense of values.
All of the above.
And so that just provides such an enormous opening and a vacuum for these guys because we're not even defending ourselves.
Matt, I think you're onto something incredibly significant there. I think what you've just said, we should actually be putting that in neon letters outside here.
Well, before we can devise a full counter-terrorism strategy on this show tonight, I have to say...
It's pretty significant.
I have to say we're being followed by Patrick Christis tonight, and I just have to... I know for a fact he's got a great show coming up tonight, but I just want to hear from the man himself. Patrick, what's coming up after us?
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Well, actually, following on the theme you just had there, an ISIS fanatic who blew up 260 people in Sri Lanka looks like he's going to be allowed to stay in Britain, so that's fantastic, isn't it? Also, the Your Party chaos. Turns out that the Muslim vote and the LGBTQ plus brigade don't like each other. Who knew? Everyone. Is it game over for the Prime Minister and the Chancellor? That's, of course, about the budget lies. And teachers want a 4-day week, is that right? And a trans child molester had his pronouns respected by a judge. So I've got all of that, as well as all of the front pages first as well. And I'm expecting some stuff about a new doctor's strike to be on there. So everything's rosy in the garden, clearly. All that coming your way, 9 to 11 p.m.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. We've had a Met Office amber rain warning in place through the day across parts of South Wales and other rain yellow warnings across parts of Western Britain. It has been a very soggy start to December, but the rain is now starting to ease in the west. These weather fronts are moving through, but still a band of pretty intense rain working from west to east over the next few hours before that finally starts to head out into the North Sea. Further outbreaks of rain to come and go across parts of Scotland, but many areas becoming much drier overnight with some clearer skies. That will allow the temperatures to dip to 5 or 6 degrees in towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside. It does mean a bright start to Tuesday. In fact, overall, a much brighter day tomorrow. Certainly for the Midlands and eastern England, we'll see some sunshine. Maybe a few breaks in the cloud coming through to parts of Scotland. Also, some wet weather across the Northern Isles initially, and showers will come into western Scotland all day. Elsewhere, we'll be looking at showers developing also. A few, maybe for the west of Northern Ireland, certainly around the coasts of Western England and Wales, and along the south coast, there'll be some showers to start off with. And as we go through the day, those showers will tend to